Hi guys, we are back with another month of reading, this time going over what I read in September. I read 6 books, which is a little less than usual because the month was hectic, but maybe this is what normal people read, and I am trying desperately to be a little bit more normal. Nah, I'm not. Starting off, we have Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn. This is a YA LGBTQ fantasy inspired by the Cinderella story. Sophia is our main character, and she lives in this city, Lisle, which is the same city that Cinderella is from. Except Cinderella has been dead for over 200 years, and the women of this town are suffering. Because the men are using Cinderella's story in order to control the masses, and to persecute women, and to put them down, and basically make them like 1950s America.
She cooks as good as she looks, Ted.
I would say this is more like a combination of The Handmaid's Tale and Brave. So Sophia is not only a woman, but she's also a woman of color and part of the LGBTQ community because she has no interest in men whatsoever. And the society she's living in not only suppresses women, but is also extremely homophobic, so you see where she's at right now. The king is the one who's enforcing and enacting these laws, making life a living hell until Sophia decides to fight back. She meets Merida from Brave, and off they go to fight the patriarchy. Just kidding, it's not Merida, but she meets a woman with fiery red hair and is able to fight. So you see where I'm going with the Handmaid's Tale meets Brave thing. So the quest begins to take down evil King Manfred. I thought this was a wickedly cool idea, and the story flows really well together. But there were parts that was just a little bit difficult for me to parse through, so I still would recommend this book, but don't go into it thinking that it's gonna be the most amazingly well-written thing, because although it's a really great premise, I don't think this story is one that's gonna like stick with me and make me think about for a really long time, you know, like how like Hunger Games or anything like that is. The pacing in the middle, in my opinion, was a little bit too slow, and then the pacing at the end was too fast, making it jarring, because you go from something that was a little languid to then boom, it's the end, and you're like, wait, what happened? Slow down. And it was a tad predictable. And by tad, I mean, it was predictable. But I enjoyed the story, and because I enjoyed the story, it's one that I will recommend. So go ahead and check this one out if this is something that you feel like you would vibe with. Children of Blood and Bone and Children of Virtue and Vengeance. These are books 1 and 2 of the Orisha trilogy. There's a third one. I really loved book 1, yet was severely disappointed by book 2. Which is weird, because normally if in a series, book 1 is kind of, okay, yeah, and then book 2 is just like rocking, and then book 3 was amazing and puts you on your butt for how awesome it is. So it was a little bit weird to go from something that I thought was really great to a book that was lackluster. So if you don't know about this series, it's a West African inspired fantasy, which I thought was just really cool, because I read a lot of fantasy, and most of the fantasy that I've read is inspired by like Nordic or Germanic mythology, you know, very white.
White boy!
So this one was a breath of fresh air for me. And it's also an example of how I'm really bad at pronouncing names, because I read book 1 and then I listened to book 2 on audio, and it's Zayli, by the way, that's how it's pronounced. Sorry. Recap of book 1, Zayli lives in Orisha, a kingdom where she is a minority because she is a descendant of the Magi, and that is marked by her white hair. Speaking of white hair, this cover is amazing. Cover of book 2, also super bomb. But there's no magic, so the Magi can't protect themselves against anything, and they are called slurs, and you know, it's not a fun time for Zayli, okay? And then there's this hope that finally they can get magic back, and if they get magic back, maybe the Magi can rise up and defend themselves and make themselves more equal and get some more equal rights. She goes on this quest to bring magic back, and Anan, who is one of the prince of the monarchy, chases after her in order to stop her. And then there was this random romance, which was weird, made no sense to me. But it's there, and between the two of them, and then it ends in a way that I'm not going to spoil. So that's kind of the gist of it, this quest story. And then in book 2, if you haven't read book 1, just fast forward. I'm just going to talk about book 2 for like maybe 2 seconds. A minute. Fast forward a minute, okay? So in book 2, magic is back, but the plot becomes super circuitous, and all of the character development from book 1 is completely unraveled. Like Amari, who is my favorite character from this book, Like, what the heck? They did her so dirty in book 2, and I was so very, very disappointed. And because the plot was circuitous, it felt like there was a lot of words for nothing to happen. And I get that probably the theme of that is it takes a long time for prejudices to end. That might be the theme of book 2, and I get it. I get where they're coming from. But it was frustrating. Book 2 was a frustrating read. So if you're back, I'm done talking about book 2. I will continue this trilogy because I'm already 2 books in. I might as well finish it because there's only 1 more book left, and hopefully there's redemption. Hopefully there's some redemption. Anyway, this is being made into a movie, and we have Viola Davis attached to this, so you know it's gonna be fire. The Aetherion Code. This is a YA science fiction that is set in a juvenile detention facility on Mars. Everyone on Earth are basically mindless, soulless zombies because they take this pharmaceutical that erases their emotions, so they can't really feel anything. They don't dream anymore. There's no living. They're just alive. And these kids are delinquents because they do anything that delinquents do. They go against society and the status quo, and then they are shoved on this summer camp-like detention facility on Mars. But they see that the Earth needs changing, I think, and that is... Okay, that's kind of all that I can really explain because the plot was really difficult to follow. Let me try again. So these delinquents are on Mars serving out their time, but it's run like a summer camp, as I said before, because they are gardening and there's like fun activities. Like, it doesn't feel like it's supposed to be a detention facility at all. Like, it's more like a group therapy. And then these juveniles try to use AI, which knows how to understand human emotion, in order to fight back, and that was how it ended. So yeah, I got lost. The plot was very, 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 very difficult to follow, and felt like it was pieced together of like, oh hey, I had this idea, and then trying to like put it in there, but it didn't quite fit with how it started. And the whole AI thing was weird to me, especially as an artist and as both of these authors are also actors themselves. I'm a little bit weird about AI. Maybe they're not. That's okay. I don't care about AI in general, especially because with the trajectory of how it's going right now in the entertainment industry and how it's trying to take over art and expression, that didn't make sense to me, especially considering that they are trying to fight back against this pharmaceutical that is stealing human emotion away. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to use AI to fight against that. But right now, currently, AI is the one that's stealing human emotion. So you see where that disconnect is for me?
Danger, Will Robinson, Will Robinson.
I will say, however, that the dialogue in this was the star of the show. The dialogue was very well done. And I can see this being turned into a TV series if the plot is fixed a little bit better. And here's how I think, my opinion again, how I think it would be fixed. Currently, the director of this Mars juvenile delinquent facility is on their side. And I think the bad guy needs to be more bad, and the director of the facility needs to be in this bad guy's pocket. That way it gives more of a motivation for this rebellion, because then these teens are able to rise up, because the teens are the ones who see what's wrong with society and nobody's listening to them. So they're able to rise up and fight against this evil director who's in the pocket of this bad guy. And then they take over Mars, because this is book 1 of a series, right? They take over the Mars facility and turn it into a camp-like utopia. So before, it should be like this miserable place, and then like trying to teach them how to conform, but then they rebel against conformity and fight back, and then it ends with them basically saying, we control Mars now. And then it can hop into the series. That's how I think it could improve, just making the plot a little bit stronger. All in all, though, I want them to keep writing, because as we know, you just continue to get better as you right, and the ideas in this are great. I loved the ideas. The Dragon Republic. So this is book 2 in the historically Chinese historical influenced fantasy, the Poppy War. Poppy War is book 1, Dragon Republic is book 2. I liked Dragon Republic so much better than Poppy War. Poppy War, we know from my last review, I was a little iffy on it because it was it felt a little bit weak to me. Didn't like this whole weird romance thing that Rin had with Alton from book 1. Like, I was just like, this makes no sense. There was no setup. It was just suddenly, oh hey, I like this guy, and it's just like, why? Is this just hormones? Like, I don't get it.
That makes no sense.
So the Poppy War failed to pull me in, whereas Dragon Republic drug me into the story. Dragon Republic was a lot better, and that gives me hope to continue this series, that it will end really well with the Burning God. And I had the same thought with John Gwyn's Malice. Like, I didn't like Malice, but everybody's like, continue, it gets better. So it got better. So I didn't like Poppy War, I like Dragon Republic, and I'm hoping it gets better. There still was this weird obsession with Alton in the Dragon Republic. It was just so weak. There wasn't enough of a relationship there for me to believe that her reaction in this second book warranted. There was no motivation behind it, and it felt weird, and it was weird to stick the backbone of this series on this one event in the Poppy War. Read the Poppy War, you know what I'm talking about, at the very end. Yeah, when I first started Dragon Republic, I groaned a little bit in a big eye roll moment, because I was just like, we're still going on with this. But then it got better, and more characters came back in, and became voices of reason, and just seeing it develop a bit more was way more interesting, and we pulled away from this whole Alton Rin thing, and that made me happy. When we pulled away from that, I was like, yes, we're getting somewhere. Because before I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to DNF this book because I can't handle this anymore because it's so dumb. I still think that R.F. Kuang is a very, very smart writer. She's very intelligent, and it comes through. Like, where other authors are afraid to murk beloved characters, she's not. In fact, she's kind of mean, because she'll make you love a character and then describe in very vivid detail how they die. Rude. Then again, that's war, everybody, and this is a series based on the Sino-Japanese War. I think the first one, second one. I don't know, there's a couple of them. One of those. I'm glad the plot thickened, and I will continue this series because it got better. And finally, The We Free Men by Terry Pratchett. This is a Discworld book, and you guys have been wanting me to read a Terry Pratchett novel for a while. That popped up in recommendations in my comments a couple of times, and this was actually a book club book in my book club. My friend picked it, and normally I wouldn't read it because it's a coming of age story, so the main character is 12, and I don't think I was gonna be unprompted interested in reading about a 12-year-old because I'm 12.
And 12.
But I'm glad I read it because it is so well written. It is literature in its purest form. It was art. The writing is absolutely spectacular and poetic and whimsical, and there are so many good themes that kids need to learn, like speaking up for others, finding confidence in yourselves, and I definitely will get my kids, hopefully, try to get my kids to read this when they're a little bit older, because they're a little bit young for it right now, just so that they can recognize what good writing, good storytelling looks like, because Terry Pratchett's imagination is absolutely insane, and his dialogue is snappy, his prose is beautiful. And maybe it's because his prose is so good that he's able to get away with a lot of Scottish stereotypes in this book. I have Scottish ancestry, but I don't consider myself Scottish enough to be offended. So if you're Scottish and you've read this book, do let me know if we need to get some torches and pitchforks.
Pitchforks for everyone! Who wants a pitchfork?
But yeah, just for literature's sake, this book was art. And I hope to continue reading more in the Discworld series, but there are so many of those books. There are so many. That's what I read in September. But I would be remiss to not talk about Project Hail Mary. I read this like last month, and I don't know why I didn't include it in my review video because it was so good. This was absolutely fan-freaking-tastic and my favorite of the month. But I went back and I watched and I was just like, oh my gosh, I forgot to mention this. Why? I'm so stupid. I read too much and I lost track of what I read. If you like science fiction, run, don't walk, and get this book because this was so very good. I'm stupid. I am very dumb, and anything that talks about math or whatnot, my eyes glaze over and I feel like I want to stab my ears with a pencil. But Andy Weir writes so much science, so much math, and I was so engaged, and that's saying something. If you can get me to care about math, then you did a good job. This is also being made into a film. We have, who is it? Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling is playing the main character. I'm really excited to see how they adapt it, but also nervous because this was really good. And if they ruin it, I'm gonna be pissed. So there you go. This was great. I am so punching myself that I forgot to talk about it in my latest video. Idiot. That's what I read in September. What did you read in September? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts. Maybe you disagree with me, which is great because you know what's awesome about reviews is they're everybody's opinions. These are just my thoughts and opinions, and we can agree to disagree or maybe find a common ground on something. But I do have a really cool announcement. I will be doing a giveaway on my Instagram of this deluxe special edition of Red Rising by Pierce Brown. If this is something that you're interested in and you would like it to grace your shelf, keep a lookout for the giveaway, and I will be posting hopefully sometime soon, and maybe you could be the lucky winner. Till the next time, happy reading, friends.